Hey everybody, we're going to slow some things down today and actually show you how to pull the flooring up from a mobile home. We have a lot of experience with this through our own home that flooded a couple years back, and all of the floors had to be replaced. And rental homes, people don't take care of things. So first of all, what you want to do is figure out where you're going to cut your boards. You want to cut them so that you can have little sections to take out. But the main thing you want to do is be really careful, and you don't want to cut your studs or your floor joists. You want to make sure that you cut in the middle of your floor joists and don't actually cut the board. So once you cut, you'll have your little section, and you want to make sure it's completely cut out. You don't want to leave any board connected to the part that you're trying to separate it from, or it will be a real pain to pull up. So he's going to cut all the way to the wall, and then he's going to cut along the edge of the wall, and there's already a line where the two boards met. At the factory edge there, he's been chipping away at. You can use any saw for this, whatever you're comfortable with. Skill saw is probably my favorite. Kevin really likes his sawzalls, but once you get them cut, you just have to break it loose from the stud. He'll use a hammer. Sometimes he'll use his foot, and get yourself a place where you can get your pry bar in. For this one, there's no need for a pry bar. It just popped right up, but you can see it left staples in the stud, in the floor joist. So those will have to be removed, and the floor is tucked up underneath the wall. And you want to make sure that you get as much of that out as you possibly can from underneath the wall. You're going to need to slide your new boards underneath that wall, so it needs to be clean. And then you just go back and pull those staples out. Now this is for a piece of board that doesn't have a ton of water damage. If it has a ton of water damage, it's going to break into pieces and it's a mess. It's going to be stuck to your floor joist. You can see the one that his hand is on right now. That one has a lot of stuff stuck to it. The water damage is worse as you get closer to the kitchen. He's working away from the water damage now, so the boards and the staples will come up a lot easier. When the plywood is gross and breaks apart, you can take your sawzall and just run it along the top of your joist, and that is a quick and helpful way to get those little pieces that are stuck off. If you want to take the time and use a pry bar and a hammer, or if you don't have a sawzall, that works, but this takes a fraction of the time. And if you just lay it flush to the joist, most of the time it doesn't damage the joist. I mean, be careful, but it just runs flush along the top. And every now and then it'll leave a little staple in there that you still have to pull out, but all of that chipping away at the damaged wood that's stuck to it is a forever job. We did it that way in the past. This is the way to do it, but be careful, because you don't want to cut the studs. You don't want to cut the floor joists. You know, if you're just careful, you can make this job take a fraction of the time by using a sawzall to clear your floor joists with. And it honestly leaves it so clean that we are very confident that the plywood that we put back down is going to lay perfectly flat and not have any little lumps or bumps left over. Really important though is to make sure you get those staples up. They are perfect sized so far, every one we've taken up, to put the claw of your hammer in and just pop it out. Sometimes only one side will come out, and then, you know, you can just break it off, bend it back and forth, and break it off and hammer down what's left. If you find for some reason the claw of your hammer doesn't fit in the staple, you can always use pliers and rip them up. It just takes a little bit more muscle. When all of the floor is up throughout the entire home, we'll actually do one final check before we start laying the plywood down to make sure that every single board is clean so that it'll lay down flat for us. And like I said, run something across to make sure that absolutely nothing is going to be in the way of laying that plywood flat. You will be so disappointed when you lay that plywood down and there's a little bump and you find out that you missed the staple. It can be a real pain in the butt to have to pick that plywood back up just to deal with one staple. Another thing too, when you're cutting, a lot of your wood's going to fall down in between the joists and land on top of your insulation. You don't want to leave that nasty stuff down there. You want to remove the smell and the mold completely away from the home and get it completely out. You might think that because it's under the floor that it's not going to cause a problem, but mold spores are tricky little beasts and they can come up through carpet and new flooring, and you just never want to leave anything moldy or gross or smelly in those in between those floor joists. It's gonna cause a problem later. I'd also like to show you the fan system that we have going on. We have one blowing out and one blowing in, which is unplugged right now because it was in the way. But this is a nasty job, and the stuff that's coming up out of the floor is actually toxic. Kevin was wearing a mask. Why he doesn't have one on right now, I'm not sure. But I'm just a girl, so what do I know? But with that fan blowing in and that big fan pulling out, we have a really good ventilation system going. You can actually see the dust. And when the little fan is on and the big fan is pulling out, it just instantly leaves the room. But PPE, guys, he's usually wearing steel-toed boots. And it's funny because somebody actually left a comment in another video about wearing steel-toed boots for this job. And I said, he always wears steel-toed boots. And then here he is in tennis shoes. It's a odd day for him. At least he has on gloves, though. I'll give him that. I'm going to use our plywood bridge here that we're using to walk through the house and talk to you about something super important. I'm going to take a minute and show you guys what you want to be careful of. You see the vent in the floor. That runs parallel all the way through the house. The vents are in the same spot in the middle of the floor, which I hate, in every room, and you can see the ductwork down here. Wires, pipes. So when you are cutting your floor, you need to be cautious of these things, because the last thing you want to do is cut through something important. You don't want to have to rewire a home that doesn't need it, or replumb a home that doesn't need it, or damage the ductwork, because that is very expensive to fix. And that's not our calling. So we would have to call a repairman for the ductwork, most likely. Adjust your blades and be cautious of all the things that's under the floor as you're cutting. Most things run under the floor joists. So as long as your blade is not longer than the floor joists, you should be good to go. But keep an eye on things. You can see where the ductwork runs. You can see where the pipes run. And, just keep an eye on it and make sure you don't cut through something important. You can see him stick his hand under. He's checking for where the floor joist is. As he's cutting along the wall, he's going to bring his blade up some where that floor joist is. You don't want to run your blade straight through and separate that floor joist from that outer board. That floor joist remaining intact is the stability of your floor. If that's cut, you're going to find soft spots. It's going to sag and warp later. Just be careful. Right here, I wanted to show you that there is an extra brace that runs from the length of the home all the way through the home. And they've cut out the floor joists to lay like a 1x4 in that little groove that you see there. And we're going to remove that. You don't have to, but it's most likely going to come up as you're pulling up your floor. It's not a really good strong wood. It's just a little extra something something for the manufacturer to staple to. So just be prepared to make a decision whether you're going to put that back or not. I don't think it's necessary. And this is our 40-yard dump. And I'll go ahead and show you guys how much we've taken out. We have this thing packed like Tetris, baby. And we are not even finished. This is why we're not putting new floor down as we go, because we have to get all of the old stuff out of the house and into this dump before the 30 days is up. They are charging $1,600 for us to use that dump for 30 days. And it will have to be real, real cold in the hot place before we let them charge us more than that. So I'm going to show one last time before we wrap this video up. Cutting in between the floor joists, making sure not to hit them. Adjusting that blade, making sure that it doesn't cut through anything important. Gonna go ahead and make sure that he cuts around the vent. This is a little tricky spot. You do not want to damage that vent. Be very, very careful. The vent opening, not the vent. I'm not exactly sure what that's called, but then you're going to take either your pry bar, your foot, your hammer, and loosen the boards. He's using his pry bar to sturdy himself so that he doesn't fall over, which is a good idea. And a little stomp, a couple little stomps, and it'll break it loose. And then he can put his pry bar in there and yank it up. Now this part does not have water damage. If your floor has water damage, it is not this smooth. And when we get back to the bathroom, there's one more little bathroom that has really bad water damage. I will put that in another video and you can see what the difference is if you can catch that other video. And there it is. This is the easiest way that we have found to remove the floor from a mobile home. We hope this helps someone and inspires someone to start a DIY project. You can do this yourself. It is possible to restore a lot of things, and you don't always have to call somebody to do it for you. YouTube is a great resource. Like our videos and help other people see that it is possible to restore your home most of the time.